What is going on, people? It's G, and we're back in the building, and we're back. We're back with a bit of a juicy one, I know I've been gone for a minute, but we're here today. And I wanted to take a quick look. Obviously, you guys can see on the screen, you've heard all the news, in recent days, weeks, in regards to Mo Salah. Now, obviously, Liverpool's stance in regards to Mo Salah is that, they don't want to sell. They don't want to sell the right winger, you know, um, Liverpool's best attacker, since he joined the football club, top goal scorer every single season, more or less in and around, if not first or second, assist maker for the club. Fantastic player for Liverpool, and there's been a lot of talk about a mammoth bid, from Saudi Arabia, to take Mo Salah, away from Liverpool. And I think it's quite interesting to kind of see, a lot of people talking about it. Of course, rightly so. People, wouldn't want to sell Salah. Why would you want to sell, one of, if not the best right winger, in world football, one of the best players in world football, when you look at him over the last, seven seasons for Liverpool Football Club and everything that he's won, everything that he's done individually, entering into these Ballon d'Or lists and all these other various different things. So it's quite interesting to see the kind of personnel, that some people are saying, maybe we should replace him with this guy or that guy. There's been some really, really good ones, some really, really strange ones, and some, intriguing ones. And I think today I just wanted to take a look at who is the player that you could potentially, replace a Mo Salah with, So today we're going to just, have a little dive into it. Do Liverpool need experience? Should they go out and get, that experienced player? Or are we looking at maybe possibly the next one up? But guys, please stay tuned and we're going to get into it.
Now you know I'm coming through. When the growth look good on you, best believe they wanna screw now. I've been trying to climb, devil threw me in the dark. Baby, don't be insecure, you can still go make a mark like blow. Could never let them drain my soul now. Blow. Table turning like doorknobs, wow. Blow. I think I'm about to set sail. I'm a walking, living legend, walking with my chest out. Life keep dealing me cards, I keep fitting in.
Yes, people. You know what time it is, man. You know what it is, guys. Please make sure you're smashing that like button for me. I'm back in the damn building. It has been an eventful time away. I'm seeing some interesting news. Obviously, you guys have obviously seen all the stuff with regards to, Jordan Henderson. Obviously, Liverpool played their last game and, all that kind of good stuff. It seems to be when I'm away, all the good stuff seem to happen. But forget all of that kind of stuff. We'll leave that for another day and maybe possibly another stream. Today, I wanted to take a look, obviously, as I mentioned before, about Mo Salah. Now, when I'm talking about Mo Salah, everybody knows me. Anybody who's watched my streams, see me on any other streams, on Jerry's show, Sam's show, anywhere, you'll know that Mo Salah is my favorite Liverpool player. Ever since he joined the football club, this guy has been immense. We all saw what he did in that first season for Liverpool, breaking the goals record before, Haaland decided to kind of come in and show everybody that he is also a freak. But ultimately, he was the one who broke that record, beforehand. And ever since he's been here, he's just been, for me anyway, he's just been Liverpool's best player, if I'm being totally honest with you. The level of consistency, that this guy has kept throughout his time at Liverpool has been absolutely mind-blowing, and I'm talking, sometimes it's not even about the goals, it's the assists, it's the fact that, season after season, and he's not a, would we say, conventional striker or anything like that. He's that inverted winger or inverted forward, however you want to kind of, put it. And, he's just shown that every single year I can put the ball in the back of the net. It might not be pretty. It might not always look good. There has been, aesthetically, non-pleasing, so to speak, when it comes to Mo Salah in terms of the way, he does certain things. But I don't think anybody, and even the biggest Salah critic, I don't think they would even sit there and say, no, this guy hasn't been, absolutely immense, world class more or less since he kind of joined, you know, the football club. And I feel like he's just kind of put himself in that kind of bracket now where you're not even questioning those kind of things. Maybe before you could have said so purely just out of, you know, longevity and things like that. And also you've got to win things, you know, ultimately that is not the only way you're going to be judged, but it's going to be very difficult for you to, you know, call yourself one of the top players of this kind of generation and, you know, this kind of period and stuff like that if you're not really winning things, you know, unless your name's Harry Kane. But, you know, I digress. Ultimately, I think when I think of someone like Mo Salah, I'm like, it's very difficult to try and sit here and say, oh yeah, I believe that, you know, potentially this player, you know, could come in and replace him, or that player could come in and replace him. I don't think that there's like, I mean, unless you can go out there and, you know, I've got like a list of players who I think, you know, we could go out there and sign, you know, so to speak. I mean, I put the title obviously there as, you know, Salah replacement, but I don't know if I would really consider them to be replacements, so to speak, because I think they might just be more of, if you're trying to go in like a different direction in terms of the type of player that you sign. And also, we don't know what Jurgen Klopp wants to kind of do, you know, with the team. Maybe that's a thought process he'll go through if Salah were to go. Maybe that's not something he's necessarily thinking about. We know we've got Harvey Elliott. We know we've got Ben Doak. Szoboszlai can obviously play, you know, out wide on the right-hand side as well. Maybe that could be a thing. You know, people tell me that Luis Diaz can play, you know, right wing as well. I don't know if that's going to be best for him, but people say he can play there. So there's another player who can potentially play in that position. Do Liverpool then decide maybe if Mo Salah goes, you get in a different type of player? And obviously I've got that kind of different option of player who I think we should go for if, for example, you were to push a Szoboszlai, you know, out to the right wing as an example, you know. So I've got a list of players. I've got 3 players who I would say experienced players that you could potentially, you know, can come in, more or less do a job. They're not going to do, I don't think there's any player out there really other than like Mbappe, and he doesn't play right wing, you know. I don't know any, you know, Saka, but I felt like that's an impossible target. Well, nothing's impossible if you throw the right money at it, but Liverpool won't spend the money that it would take to get a, you know, Bukayo Saka, and I can't see Arsenal trying to sell him, you know. Yeah, I feel like that is very unrealistic. I think Liverpool have more of a chance of signing Mbappe than they probably do, you know, Bukayo Saka when you really think about it, just because of contract situations and etc. etc. But I haven't included Bukayo Saka, you know, on this list of players. But as I mentioned, got 3 players who I think are experienced, and I've got 3 players who I think either they're kind of like ready for that next step, you know, or moving to a club like Liverpool might be the next best thing for them, but also we'd be getting a really, really good player, you know, on our hands. So without further ado, I think we'll start off with the experienced player. You know, we'll get those kind of players, you know, ultimately out the way. And there's one player obviously playing over there in Germany. It's a player I like a lot. Has played over here in England previously. Short little stint in England during his early career. But obviously over there in Germany, been absolutely phenomenal, if I'm being totally honest with you. And that is Serge Gnabry. Now, obviously, can play left, can play right wing. A really, really good player. I really, really like Gnabry. I think, you know, he's been immense since, you know, going over there to Bayern Munich. I think the type of player that you're looking at, you know, he's very fluid. He can play all across the front 3, whether that be left wing, right wing, through the middle, if we need to be, you know, can play as a support striker as well. You know, and I think he would be a very, very good option, you know, very good dribbling ability. He can finish kind of from different type of angles, left foot, right foot as well. You know, he's got both those kind of finishes on both feet in his locker. So I think that's not a signing that I would look at and think to myself, oh no, that's a poor signing by Liverpool. Why'd you go out and get Serge Gnabry? Of course, if he has a stinker, you know, of a season, you know, this year, then maybe it might look bad. But if you're just looking at him overall, you know, since his time for Bayern Munich, I feel like he'll be a signing I wouldn't be mad at. I wouldn't look at him and think, oh my goodness, you signed him, you know, kind of thing. And I want to take a little look, you know, just at his stats and stuff like that, you know, just throughout his time, you know, for Bayern Munich. If I get the screen up for you guys. Boom, boom. Just take the screen off. Cool. Yep, you guys can see it there. So let's take a little look. Let's zoom into Mr. Mr. Gnabry. So obviously you guys can see here, played right wing, obviously, of course, most times. Can play, obviously, as I mentioned, left wing as well. He's played there quite a decent amount of times. Played centre forward a few times as well, right mid, second striker, attacking midfield. And I feel like it's that level of versatility that might be, maybe that's something that we need to potentially look at, because of course everyone keeps saying the right wing kind of area is a little bit weak, and I kind of do agree with that a little bit. To be fair, I do kind of agree. It's not that strong. Like outside of Mo Salah and Bukayo Saka, you're not looking at, it's not as strong as that left wing area. You know what I mean? On the left wing, you got Kvaradona, you got Rafael Leao, you got people like Luis Diaz, people of these kind of ilks, Kylian Mbappe's and stuff like that. Those guys who can, Vinicius Jr., all these guys who can play off the left-hand side, you're looking at and you're thinking, right, okay, cool, that left-hand side. And it seems to be more, coming through. But that right-hand side is a little bit like, it just kind of depends. It really does kind of depend. And there's a lot of names that I might have missed out on. There's a lot of people, and people in the chat, let me know, like, who would you go for in a general sense? Like, what type of players are you looking for? I mean, and I want people to kind of understand as well, look, ultimately you can't replace a Mo Salah for a Mo Salah like player. I'm not advocating, for him to be sold. You know me, I just like contingency plans. I like to take a little look and see who else is out there. Do you know what I mean? What other players could Liverpool potentially go out there and sign, who could potentially fit the mold, of what we're potentially trying to do and stuff like that. But when you are looking at Gnabry, you can see here, he's played 221 times, 81 goals, 51 assists. What's that? 132 goals and assists in 221 games. That is a hell of a lot of goals and assists. This guy has been on demon time ever since. And it's crazy to even think someone like a Serge Gnabry, from when we was watching him, Arsenal early days, and then moved to West Brom on loan, and you were like, right, Tony Pulis ain't even feeling you. Like, is this guy as good as Arsene Wenger is talking about? Boy, Arsenal, maybe they should have kept him. Maybe they shouldn't have. I'm saying, when they loaned him out them couple times, maybe they should have just kept the guy. But ultimately, he's gone over to Bayern Munich, and just really made his name, if I'm being 100% honest with you. And I feel, I don't know, again, price wise, I don't know what his contract obviously looks like in terms of, how much this guy would cost. Obviously, transfer market have got him up at 55 million euros. Contract apparently expires in June 2026, or what's that, in 3 years' time. So got a little bit of time. Look, he's 28 years of age, German international. I mean, his German rate is 41 caps, 22 goals. Really, really good, But again, look, he's 28 years old. So if you're signing, say, someone like him, this is the experience that I'm talking about. You're getting in someone, obviously, who's a few years younger than Mo Salah, but you've got at least, would I say, three seasons at would I say at minimum, I feel anyway, when you look at experienced players, you've got at least like 3 seasons with them where they can still perform at a very, very high level. And if that is then the case, what you're then doing is saying, I'm getting him in, but I've then got, let's say you want to, you want to push through a Bendo. You know what? No problem. I think it'll be unfair. I think everyone might agree that it'll be a little bit unfair if we all just said, yeah, Bendo, when Salah goes next season, you're the guy who comes up next. I don't feel like Ben Doak is that type of player. There are certain 18-year-olds who you just know, Kylian Mbappe's, the Jude Bellinghams, the Neymars, and there's certain individuals, Fodens, Musialas, Gavis, the Pedris, all of these kind of guys, they've been showing top quality from such a young age. Now, of course, you can obviously turn around and say, but it's because their manager played them. They played them because they were good enough to play. At this moment in time, Ben Doak, unfortunately, I don't even think, even if Salah wasn't here, we'd be pushing him through. And I don't think he's even really ready when you do watch him anyway. He'd be someone, I would say, right now, I feel like your level maybe is championship type of level, or in a very lesser league, with no disrespect to the other leagues out there. But I would have to see him out on loan or something like that. I don't think he's really ready for Premier League, coming to playing for a big club like Liverpool, where they're at this stage of their so-called rebuild / development, kind of thing. But if you signed someone like a Gnabry who can come in, and then you're trying to then mold, waiting for Ben Doak, who can then challenge him in a season, potentially. It could take 1 season, could take 2 seasons, but at least you've got that guy who's already there. You're not worried like, oh my goodness, we're trying to sign, this guy, and he's not really ready and he's not really banging it. forget all of that. Yeah, I mean, we ain't really got that kind of time. Do you get what I'm trying to say? Like, then it just starts getting a little bit techie, and forget all of that. How about you just go and sign the guy who is more or less ready, if that's what, you know, Liverpool are, you know, potentially looking at. But again, that's just one of my options. I don't know, you might disagree. It is what it is, you know. At the end of the day, you know, I'm not here to sit here and kind of tell everybody, yep, I think Liverpool should go out and sign this guy 100%. I feel like that's just a good option, you know, potentially for Liverpool to have. Now, the next player, again, plays for Bayern Munich. Bayern Munich actually cover majority of this list because, in my opinion, they have all the players that you would possibly want in that position anyway, kind of thing. But the next player is obviously, you know, Gnabry's partner in crime, and that is Leroy Sané. Now, Leroy Sané, we already know what he's about. We know what he's about. We've seen him in England for Manchester City. He's won Premier Leagues here, playing for Manchester City under Pep Guardiola. Again, a very, very good player. One thing about Leroy Sané, you know, thinking about him, I was thinking about him the other day in terms of, you know, oh, would he be a player? Like, I when he was at City, this guy was just, it was crazy. It was absolutely crazy, blistering pace, and he still kind of got that pace, but he's just not as explosive. I don't know what it is. I know he's had an injury issues, you know, a little bit, you know, in the last like season or two. So maybe that's kind of hampering him at this current moment in time. I also feel that, I don't know, he's almost kind of playing, you know, within a shell, so to speak. I don't know, man. I feel like every time I watch his displays these days, I'm not watching the same kind of vibrant Sane, you know. Again, that might just be, you know, due to situation, you know, playing over there at Bayern Munich, everything that kind of went on, especially, you know, we saw what happened between him and Sadio Mane. But I still feel like there's a player, and he falls into that same category that I put Gnabry in, which is, you're signing these kind of players, not necessarily for, you know, oh my goodness, yeah, we can get 5-6 years. I think people sometimes, for me, at times anyway, when I hear people talk about certain players, or, you know, certain kind of things, in terms of what they're looking for, you know, in said player and stuff like that, I feel like some people become a little bit too unrealistic, unrealistic. They're like, yeah, it's almost like you're looking for like a unicorn type of player. That ad was disgusting. But yeah, it's almost like you're looking for like a unicorn type of individual, where it's like, oh, okay, so I need this guy to be, you know, I need him to be 6 foot. He needs to be able to score 100 goals. He needs to do this. He needs to do that. I'm like, brother, like these unicorn Haaland players, you know, they already play for the best clubs in the world. We can't always find these type of players. But again, when I'm looking like someone like a Leroy Sané, and again, I'll keep reiterating this after every single player. I'm going to show you Mo Salah's stats and stuff like that anyway. It's big shoes to fill, but you don't almost want to get in, unless he's a wonder kid, like genuinely of that kind of Kylian Mbappe at 17, 18 type of level player, then it'll be okay, in my personal opinion, to then get in someone like that. If they're not really that type of guy, and you are looking at this kind of level of experience, why not someone like a Leroy Sané, someone who has played at the highest level, someone who has won things, you know, at a very, very high level for, you know, for Manchester City and for, you know, for Bayern Munich. Has been experienced for absolute years, since his Schalke days, you know, coming through, you know, through that kind of system. And you can see here, played right winger, obviously most of the time, but of course can play on the left wing. We've seen him play on that left wing, attacking midfield as well. So again, it's that level of versatility. It's going to be difficult trying to find a guy who can predominantly play on that right-hand side, who is very, very good. You know, I don't really feel like those kind of players really exist too tough. But when I'm looking at someone like a Leroy Sané, again, I put him into that same category as I put the Gnabrys. 137 games, 41 goals, 37 assists. You know, again, fantastic. If I'm being honest, a fantastic record. What's that? 78 goals and assists, you know, in 137 games, considering, you know, he would have been injured for quite periods of time as well. Maybe his injury record might be potentially of concern, so to speak. If, you know, let's even take a look at what his injury record even is saying. It could be a madness. I don't actually know. And so we're going to find this out. Whew, wow, together. Obviously, that was that mad injury, Trent Alexander-Arnold, right? I remember that. Yeah, I think that's a Trent one, isn't it? Yeah, where Trent, ended his season basically, effectively. Anyway, you know, missed 50 games for both club and country that season. But outside of that massive injury, if he didn't get that, I mean, he has had the injuries regardless, muscle injuries, hamstrings, obviously the cruciate ligament rupture, the tear in a joint capsule, torn muscle fiber. Maybe these kind of injuries are weighing down on him. I'm sorry for the ad, guys, because that ad is disgusting. Maybe these injuries might be potentially weighing down on him. I don't know. At this moment in time, he's a bit of a 50-50. If I had to choose between him and Gnabry, I feel like I would lean more towards Gnabry potentially. I feel like he's a bit more complete than a Leroy Sané. But again, I wouldn't be mad at any of those two. You know what I mean? Like, I wouldn't be looking at any of those two players and thinking to myself, like, right, what, we signed him? What, to replace Salah? Nah, that doesn't make no sense. Nah, I wouldn't really mind that. Because if their plan is then to say, you know what, we're going to get Ben Doak and we're going to try and push him through and stuff like that, then you know what, I'm kind of with it. If I'm being 100% honest with you, I'm actually kind of with it. And it just shows me that you do have a plan in place, in order for you to be able to move forward from such a massive loss. And we're not sitting there saying, oh, who's the next guy? Or we're not trying to makeshift players and just try to rubble through until we find something. Nah, let's have a plan in place. If your plan is, let's just get this experienced guy, he'll give us 3 seasons. 2 of those are going to be magnificent. 1 of those, he's probably going to go on the decline. No worries, because in that 3rd season, we've got Ben Doak, if that's the player that you're looking for. We don't know until we obviously the next 3-4 years actually pan out. But if that's your plan, I'm all with it. I'm just with it if you've got a plan in place. I've got no beef with saying, you know what, Ben Doak in 3 years, what, behind these guys? No problem, because Ben Doak can then still challenge these kind of players. They're not up to the level of a Salah, so it's going to be difficult for someone like Ben Doak to even try and challenge a Mo Salah because he's not really ready or really kind of there yet, kind of thing. But guess what? If Ben Doak is up against a Gnabry or a Sane, he could challenge those kind of guys. And yes, they'll win that battle probably more often than not. But what it will do is still give him more of a chance, in my opinion, than you would get if Mo Salah was here, as an example, or if you were to get, someone of that kind of ilk. But again, it just depends on what type of plan you do have in place, because regardless, even when Mo does leave, Liverpool still need to have a plan, whoever that signing is. You can't just go out and say, let's just sign 1 player and then we're good on that side. Nah, it might need to be, you're going to sign a couple players, depending on if you feel that Ben Doak is obviously ready to be able to come through and do his thing and stuff like that. Again, just an option. I'm not saying, like, these options that I'm picking, bar 2, I think there's 2 on this list that we'll get into. I haven't shown you guys yet, but there's probably 2 players on this list where I'm like, yeah, I'd be super gassed if we signed them. The rest are, yeah, I'll be happy with that. Do you know what I mean? I wouldn't mind that. Why not sign, someone of that kind of ilk? So again, he falls into that category. And the last player I wanted to look at, who is from Bayern Munich. You probably already know if I'm talking about wingers. This guy's played for a good few clubs. He's won every single place that he's been at. He's got league titles in France. He's got league titles in Italy, in Germany. He just needs to come to England and conquer that. And Man City might have to give him a call just to give him that kind of title of being able to go all around Europe and win in the top leagues. And that's Kingsley Coman. Kingsley Coman, another player, can play left and right. Again, speedster, absolute speedster. He's got that one move in his arsenal. I think everybody knows about it. Same bait move that he does near enough all the time. But guess what? It works. It goes through. Listen, Coman, obviously he's had his injury problems, before. Is he a good player? I would say yes. I really would say yes. I don't mind someone, again, as I mentioned before, all of those 3 Bayern players, I feel like they all fall in that same category. They're top level players. They're very, very good players. On their day, they can, rival the elite players who are out there playing right about now. But maybe just through time and maybe not fulfilling everything that they should have fulfilled, throughout their time, for their clubs and stuff like that. But they are still top quality players. And you get in a young player behind these kind of guys, I'm telling you, I feel like it could be calm. And I feel like Liverpool can go through and just make things very, very seamless, if I'm being honest with you. 271 games, 58 goals, 63 assists. Now, And that is kind of crazy when you think about it. What's that? 8 threes, 11, 121 goals and assists in 271 games. That's crazy, bro. That is, that is honestly crazy, man. Like I mentioned, man, he's a phenomenal player. He's a phenomenal player, man. He's got this way about the way he plays the game. As I mentioned, he's had his injury issues and stuff like that, but he's just got this way that he's just a threat, going forward, like quick pace. He can quick change of directions, dribbling ability, like on point, close ball control, and all of that kind of good stuff. And bro, he can find you a pass. Now, those three players I've just named, Kingsley Coman, Leroy Sane, and Gnabry, they're, in my opinion, I don't think so anyway, they're not going to get you the goals, would I say, necessarily that a Mo Salah potentially would get you. I feel like they can get the assists that he can get. I feel like that they're better at it than a Mo Salah, who is very extremely good. But I feel like they can also match him if it came to like an assist thing, so to speak, especially because I feel like they would be that type of player, that type of individual. Obviously, they're all coming, to the latter part, of their own careers. I mean, he's 27. So again, you got three good seasons that you could still potentially get out of a player, like this. He can play left wing, right wing, left mid, right mid, second strike. He's obviously played in all these positions, predominantly obviously over there on that left hand side, but he has played a lot of games on that right hand side. And I wouldn't mind seeing him again. If you're going to find someone who can do both roles, again, I feel like he could be another fit, again, another experienced individual. If you get someone like him in, and if you still want to, you can still sign another younger player if you really wanted to. If you feel like, that younger player might be the one that we really want to push through, but we want him to kind of learn or challenge against a Gnabry or just someone of that experience level. Obviously, I'm saying all of this now. When that fatal day does come where Mo Salah does leave, I can see Liverpool do something completely different. I have players in mind who I think that they would actually go out and sign, but this is just my own, personal, kind of list. But again, Kingsley Coman, and I know none of these names people are gonna be like, oh, but you can't sell Salah, and because I can already see it. I already know how some of you lot's brains work more often than not. But I can already see some people saying, nah, you can't replace him with this type of player because this type of player, he get the 30 goals and there isn't. Those players don't even exist. Do you know what I'm trying to say? Like I said, the ones who I think who could do stuff like that, the Bukayo Sakas, the Kylian Mbappes, I don't see Liverpool necessarily being in a hunt to get these kind of players. If I'm being 100% honest with you, I just don't see it. I don't see how Saka would leave an Arsenal and he'd be the perfect player, in my personal opinion. I feel like he's very similar, but I'm just trying to think realistic, in terms of someone who can come in, slot in straight away, and we don't even miss a beat. Yes, we might not be as potent, but I'm looking at so many other different kind of areas in terms of, well, if you were to sell Salah, for me, I'm going out to buy a good experienced winger like a Kingsley Coman, a Gnabry, or a Sane, any one of those three, and I'm probably looking at a top quality striker. I feel like if you can get someone like that in, Liverpool can be cooking, like really cooking, if you can get that in, and then that will kind of share everything out. At the moment, Liverpool don't really possess a top quality striker, in my personal opinion. Possess strikers, I don't think they're top quality yet. This season, that might completely change. We might then have the striker, i.e. Jota, or Gakpo, or Nunes. They might just have that season where you're like, all right, this is Liverpool striker for the next however many years. We just need to get someone on that right side if Mode obviously does then leave, and then we can move forward with that. I've got no problems with that. But at this current moment, as of today's day, I don't feel like we've got that. So I'd be looking at getting in someone potentially like this, and then maybe looking at, are there any top quality strikers out there that Liverpool could potentially sign? And, just make that kind of forward line. It will get goals regardless of the forward line that we've got at this moment in time. But if Salah were to leave, those goals will dramatically decrease. So you either need to get someone who can replace him directly for those goals. But if not, I need my striker now. He's going to need to be the guy, or someone's got to be the guy. You know what I'm trying to say? Like, or if it's going to be spread, it just needs to be spread properly. And I'm not confident that it's going to be spread that way. But again, who knows how the season's going to pan out? Hopefully someone's going to change my mind, in that kind of regard. But obviously moving on, taking a look at I say next ones up, but more players who I think they're at those prime kind of. There's one up and coming player, so to speak, And then the other two are players who are ready. Like, I think the next kind of stage for them is like they could come into the team and they then could be what Salah was when he first joined, if that kind of makes sense, you know. So still not at that amazingly world-class top level-y type of player, but still someone who you're like, nah, in a season or two, if that, yeah, this guy's gonna blow. This guy's, you know, definitely gonna blow. And I think we'll go with the next one up. And obviously that is Johan Bakayoko, obviously a player that a lot of people have been talking about, plays for PSV Eindhoven, play on that right wing. Obviously had his kind of breakout season, would I say, you know, last season for PSV. Do I think he's a good player? Yes. Is he? He is, for me, in that kind of bracket where you've got like Ben Doak. Again, he's older, so of course, less. I'm not trying to, you know, get onto Ben Doak. Again, I do like Ben Doak. I don't want people to think that I'm, you know, particularly picking on him or anything like that. But, you know, I do like Ben Doak. I do think he's a good player. But there are, I feel, other players out there who are just a bit ahead in their development. Again, it's all due to game time. If you ain't getting the games, how are you supposed to develop? But ultimately, these guys are developed. So those are the ones I'm actually going to care about. He's played 45 games. Let's just take this off for you guys. So he's played 45 games, 7 goals and 10 assists so far. Listen, electrifying winger. Likes to he likes to cut in. He does like to cut in more time. Obviously, he's got that Belgium cap. He's got the gold for Belgium, only in 4 caps, 20 years of age. Dribbling ability, absolutely A1. Yeah, I definitely think he'd be coming in and almost looking like, he reminds me a little bit of like a Doku, so to speak, because they're so fast, but their close ball control is really, really good. So, you know, they can travel, you know, for long distances with the ball and it still be under their kind of control. He's got an eye for a pass as well. He likes to find himself in that kind of pockets of spaces sometimes in the attacking third. Defensively, I wouldn't say he's that great, but then again, I don't feel like Mo Salah is that great defensively either. And to be honest, what wingers are, you know, these days, I feel like that's a dying commodity or a dying thing, you know, with these kind of wingers. But, you know, again, he's the I wouldn't say Wonder Kid might be a bit too strong. I don't know if people want to put him in that bracket, fair enough. But he would be a very good player that you're like, okay, he's not at that level now, of course not. And he ain't going to be at that level for at least 5 years, at least, in my personal opinion. But what kind of player he is that if you're going to get in someone like him, that's where I'm looking at, okay, if you're going to sign someone like him, I do then either Salah is staying or you do need someone just a little bit more experience as well in that kind of position, in my personal opinion. Because he's going to have his bad games and he's not good. And even at his best, I don't feel like he's going to be able to really reproduce that kind of level of quality. I feel like, again, there's only a handful of players in and around those kind of ages. Maybe I'm thinking of like Bukayo Saka, you know, players who I'm like, yeah, I'm confident this guy will get me double digits in something. Do you get what I'm trying to say? Whereas I don't feel like he would do that, which is fine because he's still young, he's still developing, you know, he's still got kind of a long way to go. But ultimately, that's what Liverpool kind of need, you know, if they're getting in someone. So if you're going to get in someone like Bukayo, you know, again, get him in. But I do feel like you still need someone, maybe just a bit more experience, you know, alongside him. And then I feel like that would be a calm signing to, you know, to make. But again, it goes back to the players I mentioned before, you know, the Sanes, the Gnabry's, the Comans. You can get those guys in. It all then depends on what you're trying to do thereafter. Are you getting in both of them too? So you're getting in Gnabry plus Bukayo. Okay, no problem. Those two are going to battle it out on that right-hand side. And then whoever wins kind of thing. And then, you know, because you've got the Gnabry over on that side, you send Ben Doak out on loan, let him get some game time because he's still kind of like learning and he hasn't played that much football in the men's game. These guys have, even Bukayo, Johan Bukayo, he has played men's football. He has played senior football. He has got that kind of in his kind of nature at this moment in time. Ben Doak hasn't. So he's still way down the list when it comes to, you know, experience and development, you know, kind of thing. How about we just get those guys who are ready now? Then you've got your ready-made star, shall we say, coming up soon. Again, it's just about different types of ideas. What type of direction are you obviously, or do Liverpool, you know, want to kind of go in? So, like I mentioned, it'll just be very, very interesting to see, you know, in my personal opinion. The next one up, probably in terms of wingers, it's my favorite player to think like who I would really, really want Liverpool to sign. He almost moved to Chelsea in the summer. Then again, who didn't? And that is Mikel Elise. Baller, absolute baller, wing wizard, close ball control on deck, absolute on deck, dribbling on deck, deliveries on deck, eye for a pass on deck. Has he got the pace? Of course he does. Yeah, I'm trying to say, but he's not that type of player. He's a to feet type of individual. So obviously he'll be like I feel like he'd be a more labored back version of a Luis Diaz, but without the too much jinky majinky type of stuff. Yeah, I mean, like he ain't gonna be out here, trying to dribble past 101 players and then try and cut it. Nah, he'll do his thing, and then I feel like he'll just release if he needs to release, kind of thing. Not, of course, not all the time he's done that, but more often not. When I watch someone like Elise, it does kind of remind me of what Luis Diaz is in terms of really good with the ball at his feet. He can get past players quite well, but he keeps it simple at times. He really does just keep it simple. And as I mentioned, I don't look at him as the type of guy where, he's got the pace, which is so weird, but he don't really remind me of a player who wants to really get in behind. He wants that ball to his feet because he wants to cut in and shoot, but he's got such a lethal shot. When it's ready to unleash, it is actually crazy, man, to be honest with you. Take a look here at Elise's stats for what do you call it, for Crystal Palace. Oh, Mikel Elise, man, fantastic player, man. I'll be very surprised. Obviously, signed that new contract with Crystal Palace. I don't know. People are telling me that there's apparently a clause within that contract. I don't know. I'd be surprised if there was a clause, in that contract. If I'm being totally honest with you, I don't see why Crystal Palace. Well, not even I don't see why, but the amounts that people are saying it is, I'm like, nah, I don't feel like Crystal Palace would do that to themselves. I don't feel like they'd put themselves in a position whereby, they're almost going to leave themselves quite short, later on down the line, just to kind of save face for a season. But who knows? I don't know. I mean, who knew that Brighton had that release clause for, Alexis McAllister? So I guess anything can realistically happen. I'll show you guys on the screen here. Mikel Elise. Can you guys see that? I'll just take this off actually. Boom. All right, cool. Mikel. God, in London, it is bacon. It is bacon. But yes, obviously we can see right wing. Well, for Crystal Palace, he's never played over there on that left-hand side. 55 games as a right winger, attacking midfield, right midfield. For Reading, he did play in quite a few positions as well. You can see here central midfield as well. He can fill in a couple of positions, but obviously right wing being his main one. He's my main option. If I'm looking at a right winger, to be honest with you, I think he's ready for that next step up. I think he is the kind of player that, Liverpool should be targeting. Once Mo Salah leaves, 71 games, 6 goals and 19 assists. I think that will exponentially go up as soon as he moves clubs to the right club, of course. No point in just moving to any club. But I think when you're looking at someone like Mikel Elise, as I mentioned before, with the attributes that he's got, Prem proven. If people want to throw that caveat in there, I know that's always something that everyone likes to talk about. Again, I just think he's a fantastic player. I genuinely do. I genuinely believe that he's ready for that next move. He really is. And I don't even really need to talk too much on someone like him. I think everybody already knows what type of player that he is, and the type of damage that he could be doing in the right team. I would love him for us. I can potentially see someone like a City next season potentially taking a look at him. But, let's just wait and see on that one. Let's just wait and see. Obviously, he had that injury as well during the summer, during the under-21 championships. Obviously, I think he's back now as well. Let's see how he does this season. Let's see if he can remain consistent, first and foremost this season. I think that'll be quite telling. If he can remain consistent this season, it'll be interesting to see, come next summer, kind of how things, really pan out for him. But the next player who is on my list. Now, this one was a bit of left field for me, even for me. But when I was thinking about him, when I was trying to deep the kind of players who can play there and what type of player are you looking for, and et cetera, he's just a player that kind of popped up. I don't think it'll be one of my main players, but I would, again, none of these players I've been talking about today would be players that I'd be mad at if the club were to go out and sign. and he falls into that kind of category. And that's Rodrigo. That is Rodrigo. I don't know how much it would cost to get this kind of player, playing for Liverpool. So let me not sit here and gas. Let me not sit here and lie. Let me not, say whatever. Ultimately, I think, someone like a Rodrigo, he's an interesting one. He's a very, 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 very interesting individual. I think getting someone like him in, obviously he's been at Real Madrid. He's won things at Real Madrid. He can play, right wing. He can play as a striker, support striker. A couple of times, obviously, he's played obviously over there on that left hand side. I'll show you guys here. Let's take this off. Yeah. So obviously, look, as you can see, 106 games, sorry, as a right winger, 25 goals, 26 assists. His overall record actually for Real Madrid is pretty decent, for a guy who's relatively young as well. 169 games, 38 goals, 32 assists. What's that work out to be? About 70 goals and assists. That's not too bad. That's not too bad when I think about it, considering he ain't starting all those games. At the end of the day, he's definitely not starting all those games. 22 years of age. I feel like he's at the right age. He's like Elise, in my opinion. Only he's played at a really high level in terms of Champions League finals and stuff like that. I think, again, his kind of ability is so weird, though, because I feel like he's like a space operator. He always finds the right space, always. Like, he just seems to be in the right place at the right time type of individual. He's got pace as well. I wouldn't say it's as blistering, but he has got the pace. He can get in behind. He's got decent dribbling ability, close ball control. And I always feel like when he's in that forward line, maybe it was because he was playing with Vinicius and Benzema and he was just trying to show himself, but I always felt like his work rate was really, really good up in those areas. Like, obviously they've got Vinicius, they've got they had Benzema, in the last couple of seasons. Those guys are kind of going to do all the fancy things, so to speak, in terms of putting the ball at the back of the net, and the dribbling ability from Vinicius and all that kind of stuff. And those two link up really, really well. When he would play alongside those two, it was like his work rate. It's like he was doing the doggy work. He was doing like, yo, I'm going to, snap at these opponents' ankles. I'm going to make sure I'm there in their faces kind of thing. I'm going to put in that challenge if I need to put in that challenge. If I'm late, so what? It is what it is. We move forward, blah, blah, blah. Like, he just seemed like that kind of player. And then he had the guile, and then he still had the technique, the ability to put the ball, in the back of the net. Is he prolific? No. 22 years of age. Am I expecting him to be prolific? For Real Madrid, nah, because of the context of, being at Real Madrid kind of thing. And obviously the type of player that you are and how they play and blah, blah, blah. I think he's a really, really good option. Again, we're talking about Mo Salah. So, of course, I know people are already getting their backs up against the wall. I'm like, oh, my goodness, you can't replace him. There's no other player. Yes, you can. It's been done thousands of times over. But obviously, we'll get into that in a second. But I just think Rodrigo, again, would be a decent option. And especially at that kind of age, this is a Liverpool. This is like Liverpool's like prime ages that they would love to get a player in. 22 years of age. Oh, come on, man. That's perfect for Liverpool. Perfect for them, man. Between like the 22s, 25s, like between those kind of ages. Yeah, that those are kind of players that, Liverpool would love to kind of sign, because it would just, be within their kind of remit. But he was, again, like I mentioned, he was just another player that I kind of looked at and I said, you know what, why not? Why not? But obviously those are the three. So I've put obviously three players who were, would I say, experienced. So obviously you've got Leroy Sané, fantastic player in my opinion. You've got Serge Gnabry as well. And to complete the trio, you've got Kingsley Coman. Obviously, I've missed out other names. Like I mentioned, there was there are the Cavaradonnas, the Mbappe. Yes, there are all of these other names. And yes, if we were to sell him, go out and sign those guys, if that's a possibility. I don't think it is. I feel like it's going to be too unrealistic. I'm not trying to sit here for another Mbappe to Liverpool, transfer, fake saga anymore. I'm done with all that. Unless he comes up and turns up at Liverpool next season, I don't really care about that kind of stuff. I'm trying to just look at more realistic options. And then obviously we've got the kind of next ones up, or the, the ones I feel who can, are ready for to come into Liverpool and kind of make their mark, in the kind of world scene. Obviously, my favorite one, we've got Mikel Elise of Crystal Palace, fantastic, again, another fantastic player. We've obviously got Rodrigo of Real Madrid. You know, as I mentioned, could play right wing, could play centre forward. Obviously, appeared a few times on that left hand side. Is he ready to? I'm not saying leave Real Madrid. Like, oh my goodness, he's going to leave Real Madrid, because I feel like he'd be valued a little bit more at a club like Liverpool. He's already won quite a few things anyway at Real Madrid, so it's not even like, you know, he'd be looking at it thinking, oh, you know, I haven't really achieved that much. He's achieved quite a bit, you know, in the short time that he's kind of been there. So, you know, that could be could be one. I don't know in terms of price wise, you know, how much it would potentially cost. And then obviously you've got the kind of the younger of the trio, the youngest player I think on this list, Johan Bakayoko, plays for PSV on that right wing, still in his early days of development. So of course, let's not, you know, rest our hopes on someone like him. But I think it could be potentially a very, very good signing, depending on who else you sign and how you kind of integrate things, you know, within the squad and what you're potentially going to do. Obviously, as I mentioned before, you've got your Dominic Szoboszlai. And speaking of Dominic Szoboszlai, there's one more player I wanted to talk about real quick. Probably my favorite youngster out there. Those who have watched before, you already know who I'm about to say. He plays for Bayern Munich. So there's the big giveaway. There's the big giveaway there. But I picked this player because I think to myself, if you're looking for a versatile individual, he can play anywhere on the pitch, bar maybe defense. And to be honest, I've just not seen him there to really know. But if you're talking any midfield position, he can play. Any attacking area, attacking position, he can play. Not a problem whatsoever. And as I mentioned, we talk about Dominic Szoboszlai obviously appearing on that right wing. If you did then say, you know what, we're going to put Szoboszlai out there on that right wing, because we feel like that might work for us. You might need someone who can then, you know, in maybe not even necessarily to replace Szoboszlai's position, because I feel like we've got Gravenberch there now anyway, but maybe someone who can do a variety of roles where every role that this player plays, you know, he's absolutely phenomenal. And that's Jamal Musiala. That is Jamal Musiala. Like I mentioned, my favorite youngster. I don't even want to hear badness because, yeah, like there's no such thing when it comes to someone, you know, someone like a Jamal Musiala in terms of the type of player that we're looking for. Now, it would be a big signing. I think it would cost a pretty penny to get him out of somewhere like Bayern Munich. I don't see that being a cheap deal whatsoever. I don't know the type of money that Bayern Munich might potentially be asking for someone like a Jamal Musiala. So that would be interesting, you know, if I'm being totally honest, to see, you know, how that would potentially work out. But when I'm talking about someone like Musiala, I'm going to show you guys this in 1 second. Musiala. Yeah, look at that. 110 million is what the transfer market have got him at. Like, you can see here anyway. You guys can obviously see on your screen. Zoom in for you. There we go. Attacking midfield, central midfield, left wing, right mid, right wing. This guy everywhere. Can play everywhere. Like, literally can play everywhere. Like, it's just dumb. It's, you know, it's completely stupid. Now, he wouldn't be a right wing replacement. And that's why I say we mentioned Szoboszlai, in terms of Szoboszlai would be my then right wing replacement. You would then, again, all this chopping and changing, I know is probably unrealistic, because I would be then playing a different system, a different formation, if I were to sign a Jamal Musiala. But these are the options that you've got if you sign someone who is that versatile. 127 games, 31 goals, 23 assists. Bearing in mind, this guy is only 20 years of age, has 23 caps for Germany at this current moment in time, is probably going to be the face of German football for the rest of his career, if I'm being, unless someone else comes through, because at the moment he's the best young player that they've got, you know, out there, and he is just mature. I haven't met too many young players. I've only really seen it in players like Jude Bellingham. He's someone who, when he's on the pitch, he's quite mature. He has that kind of thing about him, but he does it more through being quite bullish, quite in your face. Jamal Musiala is not really like that, but in the way that he plays is so flipping mature. Close ball control, don't even talk to me about it, because this brother dribbles like Messi, Iniesta. That is actually all crazy. Dribbling ability, technique, can finish. Not the best of finishers, I will admit that, but he can finish. He can finish. He's not the best. I wouldn't place that as his at the top of his list. That might be something that I would feel he would potentially need to improve upon. But he can finish, you know, in certain kind of areas. He can make those late runs into the box if you're going to put him into the midfield area or in attacking midfield kind of position. Could he play the 8 position? 100%. Could he play in on the wings? Yes, he blatantly can. Would you put him in that number 10 kind of attacking midfield or attacking 8s? Let me not say attacking midfield because I almost feel like those almost don't really, or number 10s. I almost feel like they don't exist. It will be just more attacking 8s. He could fit that position so well because he's got the work rate. You know, he's defensively calm. Do you get what I'm trying to say? Again, not the best, but defensively, I'm not too worried about someone like him in. I've seen him also playing the DM position, you know, for Bayern Munich, where he's almost played that kind of what we're looking to at McAllister to kind of play, where it's like be comfortable on the possession, be able to dribble and all of that. His dribbling is better. I promise you that right now. His dribbling is way better than all of these guys in terms of dribbling and getting the ball forward. But obviously McAllister possesses different types of qualities. But with him, I just think if you get someone like him, you're changing the way that you kind of set up personally. But if you do change the way that you do set up, I can't see why you wouldn't want to go for someone like Jamal Musiala, honestly. Like, and obviously where he's 20 years of age. I think he's the same age as Johan Bakayoko, but obviously he's got mad level of experience, like crazy level of experience. So of course it is a little bit different. I mean, look, the guy's won a Champions League, like crazy, 20 years of age. 20 years of age. You know what I'm saying? And there's so much I could go into when it comes to somebody like Jamal Musiala, but I'd be getting him in if we were going to change up basically the way we play. And also if you're then saying to yourself, okay, then Dominic Szoboszlai, yo, you're going to go out to the right wing and then we're going to, you know, play it that way. And then if Dominic Szoboszlai goes out to the right wing, you're not so fast because, as I mentioned, you still got Harvey Elliott, you still got Ben Doak to kind of swap and come in if needs be kind of thing. And then Szoboszlai can potentially go back into central midfield, or you can push Jamal Musiala out wide and maybe have him a lot more inverted. Like with someone like Musiala, you can do so many different things because he's not going to be a problem in give or take most positions. Now, of course, the player that we're trying to replace is this guy. And let me get his stats up. Boom. See, wait for you guys to lock in. Oh my God. This is the player that you're trying to replace. Well, not even replace, but this is the player who's going to be coming or leaving Liverpool at some point in time. 309 games, 188 goals and 81 assists. I'm not adding that up, but either way, it's what's that, 270 or something like that. Goals and assists in 309 games. It's a lot. I know it's a lot. I understand that it's a lot. I understand that it's going to be difficult to try and find someone, you know, who can replace someone like a Mo Salah, you know, 31 years of age, 88 caps for Egypt, 49 goals, you know, legendary status at Liverpool, all of that good stuff. I know. No one needs to tell me. Like I said, he's my favorite player. I already know this guy inside out. Pause. Do you get what I'm trying to say? So I understand the severity of potentially someone like a Mo Salah leaving and what that would obviously then mean for Liverpool. But there are players out there, is the point of this video. It wasn't to say, yes, sell him. I would rather you didn't sell him. But if we did sell him for the kind of money that's being offered, I'd almost be like, it'd be kind of stupid to kind of say no to those kind of things, because there are more than enough competent players to come to who are out there who Liverpool could sign, you know, in the future, kind of thing. Maybe not in this summer. Maybe it depends on if that offer is going to still be there come January or come next season. But cool, if you're not going to do it this year, then next year, if he is to leave, again, this is just all on the basis that he wants to leave and stuff like that. If he wants to stay, and I'm good with that. You know what I mean? Because at the moment, you're not showing me anything where I'd say, yeah, you need to leave kind of thing. He's not giving me those kind of vibes, you know, and it's like a Thiago or a Henderson or Fabinho, players you're like, they're on the way down. He doesn't feel like he's on the way down. He just feels like he's at a standstill, but his standstill is like Virgil. You know, they're so similar in terms of, even if they drop a level, their level's still better than everyone else's. Yeah, they're still at that type of, you know, that type of level, that type of stage. So I understand the severity of someone like a Salah going. So no, I do not want him to leave. But I'm tired of people being so naive and thinking that he will never leave. And then everyone sits there like, oh my goodness, who can replace? Guess what? There are people out there. There are other players. Even the players that I put up here on the list, these might not even be the guys. They might not even be the guys. Do you get what I'm trying? There's so many other players out there. It all depends on the direction of Liverpool Football Club and what it is that they want to actually do. Hence why I decided to do this video. But people, let me know in the comment section. Let me know, obviously, what you guys think, you know, in regards to who you wouldn't mind seeing, you know, who you would be looking at yourselves if they were to come into Liverpool. You would be happy with that, at least. You know, forget, even if you think it's a little bit unrealistic, who would you just be happy with? Do you get what I'm trying to say? Because yes, we can all sit here and, you know, oh yeah, I would love to have this guy, I would love to have that guy, and blah blah blah. But there are probably some signings that we've made that not everybody's, you know, too happy about. Who would be someone that you wouldn't mind? Do you get what I'm trying to say? And again, as I mentioned before, of course, I didn't pick the Cavaradonas. I'm not going to talk about the Rafael Leaos. I don't think that those kind of players, if you're going to get in those players, you could get in those guys and then just push Szoboszlai out to the right wing. But we've got so many left wingers. I would only see that as an option if you sold one of them. So if you sold Diaz, let's talk. If you were selling Diaz and you were selling Mo Salah in the same window, now I'm saying, okay, yeah, I need Cavaradonas, I need or Leao, and then I need someone on that right wing. Do you get? Then I don't mind how we're kind of playing it. But at this moment in time, when I'm just looking at people who can predominantly play on that right hand side, that's why I've left those guys out. I've also obviously left out Bukayo Saka and Kylian Mbappe. One, Mbappe is not a right winger, and two, I don't see Arsenal letting Saka go, especially to Liverpool as well. That would be, we'd have to fork up like 200 mil anyway. So that money we get from Saudi, we'd have to end up spending more or less the 90% of it. So again, I don't realistically see, you know, that's happening. Let me know. I'll be in the chat anyway, guys. Thank you guys for obviously rocking with me for today's video. As I mentioned, if you're watching this on the replay as well, make sure you leave your players, you know, players that you think, my list might be crap, you know, but who cares? Let me know your list. I'm just giving you the list. Yeah, I'm getting the brains working. I'm getting people thinking. So I want you guys to let me know, who are you thinking about? What, like, I would love to see the type of individuals that, you know, other fans out there are looking at and thinking, nah, this might be a player. I want to do a bit more research on potentially a player that I've missed out on. You know, have a watch of him this season. Well, could that be the guy? Who knows? There are players out there, people. We need to stop thinking that there isn't. We can obviously sign someone else. Obviously, we hope that that doesn't happen, and we hope that Mo Salah obviously stays. But if that day should come, we need to start having contingency plans as a fan base, that we're not all crying and moaning about it, but we already say, nah, that's calm, don't worry. This is the guy that we need to get. Boom, 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 boom. And then we go from there, man. But as I mentioned before, guys, love for rocking me for today's video. Leave your comments in the chat. Leave your comments under the video itself. If you're watching this on the replay, make sure you smash a like, make sure you share, make sure you subscribe to the channel. I'm G, and we are out.